just want to touch on one last issue, and it's what you mentioned, the protests that are happening. We've seen it at Jewish day schools. We've seen it at synagogues. Now, look, we've seen it at political events, and I think that falls within the line of sort of acceptable targets for political protests. How they're conducted is another question. But there is a concern in the Jewish community and from others that these are getting to a point where police intervention is required, and they're not seeing it. How does policing across the country and political leaders across the country need to respond to these concerns to get it to a point where people can protest, but Jewish Canadians can feel safe?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, there shouldn't be protests outside of Jewish Canadian buildings. But second of all, when there are such protests, the police have to have a very clear line of demarcation. On Monday night in Montreal at the Federation Building, which houses the Jewish Public Library and the Holocaust Museum, they allowed demonstrators to surround the building and not let people enter or leave for hours. That is unacceptable. Blocking access to a building, not letting people go in to hear a speaker that they want to hear, is using your right of freedom of speech to block other people from having a right of freedom of speech, and that is not okay in Canada. So police need to be told by politicians that we will support them 100% when they actually act as police. They move demonstrators several meters away from the building, create safe spaces for people to enter and exit without being intimidated, and that in the event that people break the law and police choose to charge them, they will be supported by politicians. That is a speech that Rishi Sunak made, and I am calling on the Prime Minister, premiers, mayors, and all Canadian politicians, including opposition leaders, to make that very clear. We will support the police when they act as police in these areas, because it's not fair to intimidate and scare other Canadians from exercising their rights, and that is what is happening now.
Liberal MP Anthony Housefather, we always appreciate the time. Thank you for coming on today, sir.
Thanks always for having me, David.